Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Schulman. I'm a college counselor in New Jersey, and I am joined today by Patrick, who is a regional College Charleston rep. So he does not live in South Carolina. He lives in New Jersey, where we're a whole lot safer with COVID. Just kidding. uh, but maybe not. So that's great because he typically will visit high schools. He can travel not too far away, and so he can visit high schools and events and things like that when things are back up and running. I went to Charleston in fall of 2018, and it's one of my favorite schools, favorite cities. So beautiful, very like Nicholas Sparks looking. I felt like I was right out of a movie. And then I found out that Nicholas Sparks was filmed there. It all made sense. So, such a fun town, such a cool kind of like progressive city in the South, right near the beach, palm trees nearby, restaurants, everything that you could really want. Good shopping and really quick, easy, cheap plane rides. So from kids that are right on here from New Jersey. So I'm going to let Patrick tell you a lot more because what do I really know? Especially I was only there for a few hours. So I will let him introduce himself and College Charleston, and then I will try to get to all your questions and have Patrick answer as many as possible.
Great. Thank you, Jenna. So my name is Patrick Mazer. I'm one of the assistant directors with the College of Charleston. I work with students specifically in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. But I've been with the college. This is going to be my second year, but I've been in college admissions for quite some time. So happy to share some advice from, so to say, this side of the process. I know it can be very stressful, and I'm sure, especially students this year, more than any year, are lots of questions and lots of unknowns. I guess kind of my first and thing you'll probably hear me say a few times is colleges want to admit you. Colleges want to help you figure out this process. I know it sounds taxing and confusing, and I know it can be very intimidating, but I know that colleges want to help, and especially as everything's been turned upside down this year, colleges are going to do everything they can to help you navigate this process, to help you figure out what the best option is going to be for you and how about going there. There's going to be a lot of unknowns, a lot of things we don't know, but we're going to do our best to get through it. So my goal today is to give a little bit, hopefully an overview, answer some kind of key questions in terms of who we are as an institution. A big part of that, as Jen alluded to, is where we are. Charleston is absolutely a huge part of our identity, more than just in our name. We are very much intertwined into the city of Charleston. So I'm going to share my screen here just to kind of walk us through a few things. It'll have my contact information, and I know there's some people who aren't here in New Jersey on this, and so I'll be sure at the end to kind of point you towards where to get your counselor's contact information. But without further ado, let me kind of switch over here and share a little bit of information. So College of Charleston, yes, there's my contact information, mazerpj@cofc.edu. Always happy to share that as needed and answer any questions. And like I said, if you need to get a hold of someone and you don't have quite the right person, I'm always happy to be a good connection there. We'll kind of first jump in right to kind of some of the facts and figures and do a little bit of Charleston by the numbers. So College of Charleston is a public institution. We are a state school within the state of South Carolina. We are located in the city of Charleston, and I'll talk a lot more about our location here in a few minutes. Size is a big part of who we are. We are about 10,000 undergraduate students. So in terms of our makeup, we've got about 10,000 undergraduate students, about 1,000 graduate students, and currently we don't have any PhD students. I know that the plan is to grow a little bit and add in maybe some really great research opportunity with some PhD students. But at our core and who we remain is an undergraduate institution. And that's very much reflective in our professors and our teaching style, and obviously in a number of accolades and recognition that we receive, that we are an institution that really focuses on 18 to 22-year-olds, on students who are coming through this process and they're going to come to campus full of ideas and full of passion, and they want to find themselves in a place where their academic curiosity, their passion, their things they're committed to their goals and plans and aspirations are going to be met with faculty and staff who are committed to really helping them achieve them and helping them move on to that next stage of life. In terms of criteria, obviously I know it's always a popular topic and one that students are always really concerned with. In general, and so the numbers you see here, this is all based on our previous year. Our marketing is all in the process of being updated. So there will obviously be some updates, and I'll talk about this in just a second. But traditionally, our profile, we say students, their GPA is an A or a B. A, B average. Our students are challenging themselves. There's no set criteria in terms of the number of advanced or honors or AP courses a students take. Students generally will challenge themselves. We do see students with a mix of them, but we also see students who take and challenge themselves and really round out their application with a range of classes. So it's not so much exactly what you take, it's much more kind of how you do in those classes and how you perform. We love to see trends. Seniors, as you're going through this application process, we are going to look back over your academic history, and we love to see students that have had a steady improvement over the course of. So seniors, you're going to have six semesters behind you. You're going to be in the midst of your 7th semester. We love to see that steady increase. We know that students have setbacks, and so if there's students that have a setback, we love to see them recover. That perseverance and kind of the stickiness of the process is obviously for us always really helpful to see a student who's able to really kind of tackle a number of things and keep themselves moving forward. AB average. So SATs and ACTs, that's obviously going to be a little bit different this year. Historically, our ACTs about a 24 to a 29. Our SATs about 1120 to a 1280. We know that SATs were mostly canceled in the spring and into the early summer. And realistically, we don't know how much of the fall testing is going to be able to get done. I know that the College Board is working very hard on that and trying to make everything happen. But we know that realistically, at the very least, not as many of our students are going to have the scores reflective of their capabilities and honestly the hard work they've put in to improving their test scores, because they're just not going to have as many chances to have taken the test. We also know there's going to be a lot of students who, for a number of reasons, are just not having the opportunity to have taken the test. So College of Charleston, for this coming year, we do have a score optional process for students to apply, and they will simply they will not have their scores included in the academic review. We will be looking obviously a bit closer at the academic transcript. I would very much recommend, we have an optional essay as part of our application process. It remains optional, but I would say especially for a student applying score optional, and I'm sure you've heard this from Jenna, is anything that says optional, if this is a school that's really on your list, to take advantage of those. If you have an opportunity to talk about yourself and tell your story, it definitely is in your interest to take advantage of that and tell us a little bit more about you and what it is that you want to do. So you see on here 140 undergraduate majors and minors, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those majors and minors. Broadly diverse, I think one of the things that Jenna mentioned is it is this kind of very progressive little, people think, oh, it's the South. And obviously that's a big part of it. We are in Charleston, South Carolina. It's inescapable. And I always kind of describe it, especially being here in New Jersey, it's not the Deep South. You can probably see the Deep South from some parts of South Carolina. But Charleston by no means is that. Charleston is progressive and eclectic and has, I always describe it as a city with a lowercase c. It's laid back. It is a major tourist destination. This past year, we had just under, I think about 8 million tourists who came to the city. So there's a ton of hotels and resorts, golf courses and museums and just things to take advantage of and things to be a part of. And we'll talk obviously a little bit more about Charleston. Running through a few more kind of stats and figures here, just in the abbreviated section of it. Over 250 clubs and organizations. I think you'll find that to be pretty standard for most schools. Most schools, I think, and I would imagine most schools you're looking at, they have a broad range of student clubs and activities, and you'll find that very much the case here. With that student body, that we have about 10,000 students, it is that really nice mix of not too many, it's large enough that there's a lot of resources and a lot of diversity in our student population, but it's not so large that it becomes kind of overbearing. I really like the nice size that we have. Because of that size, we have a 15-to-1 student-teacher, student-faculty ratio. All classes are faculty taught. That is a side effect, and one of the nice benefits of not having PhD programs and having not that many graduate programs is we have our faculty teaching. We don't have TAs teaching classes. We don't have graduate assistants teaching classes. We have faculty teaching classes, which I think is a great benefit to our students. Roughly half of our student body is from out of state. Obviously traditionally strong on the Atlantic coast, so New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, always very strong for us, Virginia, Maryland, all up and down the eastern seaboard, and increasingly a number of students from west of the Mississippi, kind of all throughout the country and increasingly all throughout the world. So it is a nice, very diverse student population on campus. Study abroad, very big for our students. Obviously, in current environment, we're not going, our numbers for the fall are pretty much non-existent for where students are going to be studying abroad, but traditionally students will study fall or spring semester year round. It is, because this is a very much a kind of liberal arts approach, a lot of students take advantage of study abroad, and you'll find a lot of support and encouragement to study abroad and take advantage of all that College of Charleston has to offer in its international studies. And then last but not least, 19 different Division I teams. We are a basketball school. The Cougars, we play in the Colonial Athletic Association. So we play schools all the way up in Boston, Northeastern, schools all through, Hofstra is in there. A few other schools that are escaping me right now, but it's a big basketball school. One quick note here on the image you see is Randolph Hall. Randolph Hall is obviously a very iconic building on campus, and we'll talk a bit more. It's the background you see behind me. There's a lot of beautiful imagery all around Charleston, but this Randolph Hall you'll see in a number of photos because it is just such an iconic part of Charleston and something that really stands out as iconic on our campus. So we obviously want to stay in touch, and we'll talk a little bit more about staying in touch in just a minute here. But let me switch over to another document. We've got a number of things here. Sorry, let me kind of juggle in. We'll switch over and let me now, with some of the formal presentation out of the way, let me now talk a bit more about kind of who we are and where we are. So let me switch over to beautiful Google Maps, because I think that's a little bit helpful and it helps put you into context. So here you see the Eastern Seaboard. Obviously, so New York, you can get direct flights from JFK, from Newark, Philadelphia Airport. They all fly direct to Charleston. It's about a 2-hour flight. Direct flight, nice and easy. Charleston Airport has a nice number of benefits. It has 3 components that are part of the Charleston Airport. It is Charleston International Airport. It's also Wright Air Force Base, which is really good because it allows us to have a lot of benefits when it comes inevitably to storms, and I'll talk about hurricanes here at some point. If there's storms approaching Charleston, you better believe that Air Force Base is going to stay open as late as possible, and obviously open up as quick as possible because the Air Force and a number of its supply planes are going to be in and out as needed. The third portion of Charleston, the Charleston Airport complex, is actually a large Boeing facility. There's a number of planes that Boeing builds right in Charleston. So when you land at the airport, if you've had a chance to visit Charleston or maybe head to Kiowa Island and you've driven out of the airport, you've been confused why there's an Air Thailand or an Air China and all these international flights that you wouldn't necessarily think would travel to Charleston. It's the reason that they're being built right there. So there's a number of these beautiful beautiful planes being built right there. What it means for our students is there's a lot of opportunity to do internships, a lot of opportunities for jobs, because it is, a very much a modern manufacturing facility. It's only been in Charleston, I think, for less than 15 years. So it's a very modern facility, requires a lot of technology and innovation. And so our students have a lot of opportunity to get involved right there. So we're going to kind of zoom in a little bit here to Charleston. We'll let it, we'll see here. So this is the peninsula of Charleston. This is kind of very much When people think about Charleston, this is the image they have in mind. So looking over it, it might just look like a city, but hopefully the at least initial takeaway is it's not big, right? This is the kind of the heart of kind of downtown Charleston. You have the Medical University of South Carolina, just a little bit to the south of campus, but Marion Square is always a good reference point. I mentioned Randolph Hall. You'll see here is our wonderful view of Randolph Hall. So campus is right in the middle of the city. It's not a separate campus. It's not something where people have to kind of go out of their way. It is right in the middle of the city of Charleston. So right here, Randolph Hall, like I said, very iconic. You'll see a number of pictures of that in Porter's Lodge. Campus really is really only about 3 to 4 blocks from side to side, and then it ranges about 7 to 8 blocks north to south. So there's a number of campus buildings. You see our new library, brand new library, which is always a big stop on our campus tour. And I would definitely recommend if you're not able to make a trip down to Charleston, take our campus tour, take the online virtual tour. But it's from the Cistern Yard over to the library, up to a number of our housing facilities, classrooms all interspersed. I think hopefully another key takeaway from kind of looking at campus and the world, Charleston in this view, as I said, it's city with a lowercase c. It's not a big overpowering city. People call Charleston the Holy City because there's so many churches, and also the oldest synagogue in the United States, which is located just right off campus. But as it is the Holy City, from everything we'll see Calhoun Street, which is right here on Marion Square. If you can see my mouse moving back and forth, everything south of Calhoun Street has to be shorter than certain church steeples. So really the city tops out at about, from where College Charleston is located, it tops out at about 4 to 5 stories. So it's not an overpowering. I think a lot of times when students think of an urban campus, especially here in New Jersey and New York, there's obviously immediate comparisons to NYU, maybe in Philadelphia to Drexel or to Temple, Penn, which are very much, I think, much more hustle and bustle and louder and a lot more concrete. Charleston is that laid back. If you see the Apple store here on King Street, all up and down is a lot of great retail and restaurant. Everything from a Louis Vuitton store to the Apple store to lots of little boutiques. One of my favorite places is Callie's Hot Biscuit, just north of Marion Square. There's a lot of these great little places. And then obviously as you zoom out, you'll see that pretty quickly, you see the water. It's on we'll say the north side here, it's a lot of the industrial side. That's where, since Charleston is an international port, that's where you'll actually see hundreds and thousands of BMWs being loaded up to be shipped all over the world. Elsewhere in South Carolina, BMW builds all of their SUVs, and so they all ship out most of them will all ship out via the port of Charleston. Mercedes-Benz builds their Sprinter vans. Volvo builds their S60 class vehicles right there. Bosch has a number of facilities. So there's a lot of international trade that comes in and out of Charleston by way of our port. Those are the big ones. Le Creuset, the French cast iron cookware, they have their U.S. headquarters in Charleston because it just so happens about the quickest route from France, where all their product is made, into the United States is to go right into Charleston. So historic Charleston is all throughout here on the peninsula, where our students take advantage of it. Students go out for a run, they ride their bike, and pretty quickly they find themselves day in and day out in the midst of places where people, save up to take a big trip. And it's a great place for our students to be able to have in their backyard and take advantage of and see firsthand all the great history and beautiful sights of Charleston. So to talk a little bit about the architecture, I pulled up a few of my favorite images and some of the kind of iconic buildings I think around campus. Porter's Lodge is right across the street from the admissions office, and that leads into the Cistern Yard, which is in front of Randolph Hall. It is the heart and center of campus. You walk through these gates of Porter's Lodge, you'll see that Greek inscription. It says, the translation is "Know thyself." It is one of the mottos of the College of Charleston. If you may know, the College of Charleston is actually approach it. We're actually in our 250th year. So we are the 13th oldest institution in the United States. We are the oldest municipal school. We were since 1850, starting in 1850, we were funded by the city of Charleston. And obviously, as I mentioned, we are continue to be public through the state of South Carolina. But this wonderful old classic architecture is all throughout campus. You'll see a number of these beautiful old buildings, these old Charleston style Victorians where they're narrow facing the street with beautiful side porches. These are not kind of historic relics. These are very much departmental buildings. If you look closely on this blue building right here on the front, these are the offices for the Department of Communication. So these are where our faculty have their office hours, where you'll find resources, and it is very common, especially with the wonderful weather that we have, that all throughout the fall and in early spring, you'll find faculty sitting on the porches with students, discussing work, discussing problems and concerns they have, helping them work on their resume, helping them kind of make those career connections. But it is that very laid back Southern atmosphere, that very kind of easygoing. I describe it as kind of relaxed coastal environment is at the heart and soul of Charleston. And you'll find these buildings like this, and also our brand new business building and our library and these great facilities. So it's a wonderful mixture. It's a kind of the best of both worlds that we have. Some unique things you'll find about Charleston, and I think one of the ones that always stands out and makes it, I think, kind of very distinctly Southern in a way, is our commencement. This is our spring commencement that we hold every year. It is held on the Cistern Yard right in front of Randolph Hall, that, like I said, that very kind of heart and soul of campus. And you'll notice that none of the students are wearing cap and gown. Students that are, you will likely, if, you might go on to a master's degree, a PhD one day, you'll wear a cap and gown then, but likely your high school graduation will be the last time you wear a cap and gown, because College of Charleston, the women have the freedom to wear a white dress of their choosing. And then the men have a little bit more of a restriction. Our men wear a tuxedo, and being that it is the springtime and day, they wear a white dinner jacket, black pants, white shirt, black bow tie. Makes for kind of very much a iconic and quintessential Charleston experience. So it is always nice. It's generally around Mother's Day weekend every year. And there's beautiful outdoor ceremony, and then obviously festivities all throughout Charleston as families come in to celebrate their students and cap off their 4 years of time in Charleston. So that's a little bit about kind of who we are, and as a institution. Like I said, it has a real strong commitment to undergraduate learning. It is a place where our students just really latch on to professors, and they build these strong relationships. And I work with a number of my colleagues who are alums, and they talk about they still have strong relationships with their professors and faculty that they've stayed in touch with. The faculty who we bring in know that they're going to work with undergraduates. So we recruit faculty who want to work with undergraduates exclusively, who want to help them shape their careers and their next steps and go on to some great things. So in terms of what we offer, fairly broad. You saw the note there on the numbers that said we have over 140 majors and minors. What that translates to is over 60 different majors, a number of BA and BS options, but it runs the broad gamut. Obviously, traditionally strong in the humanities and the social sciences. So sociology, anthropology, English communications, pre-law, education, you name it, a number of different options within the world of the humanities and the social sciences. The science is very strong, chemistry, biology. We do have a pre-med, kind of a program that advises you. Generally, those students will major in biology or chemistry, but we do have a really strong pre-med path for students to take advantage of, with a lot of counseling along the way. Let's see, go through a few other of the areas. Business is a big one for Charleston. Charleston, I mentioned, has really, or may have not have mentioned, has gone through a lot of growth. It was a sleepy Navy town for a while, It has become a international tourism destination. And then increasingly with companies like Boeing and with Bosch, with BMW, Volvo, and just a number of other companies all throughout the area, really has turned into a advanced manufacturing area with a lot of opportunities around there. So business has become a big one. Marketing, management, finance, accounting, information sciences, kind of the data side of things, supply chain. And then the other ones that I think particularly stand out and I think are a little bit more unique to Charleston is real estate. We have commercial real estate finance, and that is really benefits from there being such a tremendous real estate boom going on in Charleston. As so many people have moved to the region, there's a huge demand for new housing of every type, whether it's low density residential, high density residential, whether it's in the city, whether it's out in the suburbs, whether it's commercial, whether it's industrial space. There's so many opportunities for our students to get those internships and that experience while they're there. So real estate is I think a unique one, but also a really great opportunity for our students. And then tourism and hospitality, or hospitality and tourism management, as we have it listed. 8 million tourists every year. There are tremendous opportunities for our students to get real hands-on experience working in world-class facilities. I know next year coming up, the Players golf tournament will be at Kiowa Island. And so our students actually will have an opportunity to do an internship where they do some classwork, and then they also will wind up actually working with the PGA and some of their vendors on, I believe, the 16th, 17th, and 18th hole of the Players tournament. So it's a great opportunity for our students who are going to go into those fields to be able to have Kiowa Island, be able to have the PGA, and these very high-profile events right on their resume. And so that's, I know, one of those things, just a small example of some of the great benefits we have of our students being in that area. You'll see here, obviously, extensive list. Education's a big one. A lot of students going into every level of education: elementary, special education, physical education, middle grades, and high school. Anything you'd want to study, there's lots of ways to go about that. Visual and performing arts. Hopefully a key takeaway here is that there are just a lot of different things for our students to get in and take advantage of. And then the majors are much more extensive even beyond this. You'll see a whole list of minors, rather. There's just about everything you'd want to do. I will say with the kind of the two, the one main exception is Charleston. For as many things as we offer our students, if you are a student who knows that they want to go into nursing, we are not the best fit. And then particularly there's a number of ways to get towards law enforcement, especially depending on what you want to do. If you want to go into federal law enforcement, surprisingly, one of the absolute best paths to do that is through the accounting avenue. But administration of justice, criminal justice is a popular interest of students, but ultimately not one of the programs. So outside of those two programs, just about every other major or area students are looking to do is going to be a good opportunity for them. So one thing to know with our majors and with our minors, all of our students come into the College of Charleston undeclared. And that's just a part of our commitment to the undergraduate education. We know that students are going to have a lot of development, a lot of growth over their time in the College of Charleston. And so when you apply to the college, you're very welcome to indicate the major that you would like to focus on. You are not reviewed harder or easier based on that major. There's no quotas, because at the end of the day, every student admitted to the College of Charleston is going to ultimately enter and enroll undeclared. Most students are going to very quickly then turn around and declare a major and go with an advisor in that department and have some really great advice and tailored advice to what they want to do. But it gives our students the freedom to ultimately make the best decision for themselves. It's also worth noting there's no second gates. So you're not going to find yourself in a situation where where you are admitted to the College of Charleston, but then find yourself unable to be admitted to the School of Business. There are no second gates. There are some prerequisites in terms of classes that students have to take, but ultimately they are a part of the major. So you don't find yourself kind of stranded at the College of Charleston, but unable to enter in the major that you ultimately want to pursue. So you do have that freedom. You will find a good number of our students are going to have, if not double majors, they will have a broad range of majors and minors. There's a lot of paths for people to go through and, kind of make it very much that unique and kind of specialized area they want to focus in. So there's a lot of different things. And ultimately, I think, hopefully the takeaway is that College of Charleston has that liberal arts core with a lot of opportunities. Again, 10,000 students gives you that good size that you're hopefully looking for, but still remains those nice small class sizes with a lot of interaction with faculty. So I'm going to quickly kind of run through a few kind of social media things and ways to stay in touch. And then I'm hoping to turn it over and be able to answer some questions for you all. In terms of learning a little bit more about Charleston, one of the best Instagram accounts for that is Explore Charleston. It gives you a good sense of the visuals, gives you a good sense of what the region is all about. This is a part of the City of Charleston's tourism branch, but they have if you want to just be flooded with beautiful imagery of beaches and beautiful homes and just all great things to see and do. Explore Charleston is a good one there. One of my favorite little restaurants, Caviar and Bananas. It's actually right on the corner of George, which is right by the admissions office. George Street and King Street is just about where Caviar and Bananas is. It's, I believe, actually founded by some College of Charleston alumni, but it is a specialty little sandwich place. You'll see students lined up to grab their morning coffee, to grab, an off-campus lunch or dinner or breakfast. So it's Caviar and Bananas, one of my personal little favorites there. Another one I'd recommend is President Shu. So President Andrew Shu is going into just about his third year here at the College of Charleston, has come in with a great strategic plan for the college, and has really done some great things for us. I think another great benefit of President Shu is he has a strong relationship with the students, bolstered by the fact that he has students who are roughly your age. He has at least one, if not two daughters in high school in the Charleston area. So he knows the stress and the fatigue of going through this process. So he knows it firsthand, and is very tied into the students. So CFC HSU is a great one to follow. Gives a lot of timely updates, and you'll find that he is very approachable. He puts out a playlist every finals so that students have some good music to listen to. And then last but not least is, if you're at all interested in marine biology, That's a Sponge is one of our professors, Chris Freeman, who works in our marine biology department. And he will showcase a lot of the work him and his students are doing. So they're going out, they're doing hands-on research in the water, in the low country, and taking advantage of where they're at. So to kind of run through here, last I mentioned on how to stay in touch with people. If you go to the admissions site, you'll see a link on a number of different pages called Meet Your Counselor. And then you'll find out of state, there's a number of different resources here. So these are all up to date. I do encourage you to reach out to your counselor, and even if it's just to simply say, hey, I attended the session with Patrick and I'd love to get a little bit more information, or just to stay in touch. Obviously, the travel schedule is going to look a lot different. We would normally be visiting all these different high schools and doing college fairs. That's unfortunately likely not going to happen the way it has in the past years. But that just means all the more better for you to reach out and make a connection with your counselor. So if you're on the West Coast, reach out to Christina. Christina happens to be our director of recruitment. And then you'll see here on the East Coast, there's a number of our staff, everyone from myself, Rebecca, Hannah, Andrew, Aisha, Fred, all sorts of people. So take advantage of that and reach out and let us know how we can help. And with that, I think I'm ready to answer some questions.
All right. I love that you showed the map. I think that's such a good visual for people. Somebody asked, could you talk more about engineering and marine biology?
Sure. So engineering, I would say it's an interesting one for us. I mentioned we're a public school, so we're a little bit, we'll say, restricted in the majors that we want to offer. To that end, we currently have one engineering discipline, which is systems engineering. Systems engineering is a little bit different. It's not electrical engineering or mechanical engineering. It's a broader picture. So you imagine, I always use the example, if you're building a plane for Boeing, you need to know the mechanical engineering, you need to know the electrical engineering, but the bigger thing is to know how all those different systems interact together. And so that's one that we've really developed that program in conjunction with the businesses in the field. So Boeing, Bosch, Mercedes have all had input in terms of that curriculum. So systems engineering we currently have and available for students, and we are expecting to be adding electrical engineering this year as well. Marine biology is a big one for us. We have our Grice. I mentioned the Instagram there from That's a Sponge. Our Grice Marine Lab is actually just a little bit off-site. We provide transportation back and forth, but our students are frequently out on the water. They're going on research trips. They are frontline in terms of, cutting edge research and building, whether it's from a conservation standpoint, whether it's from an agri or an aquaculture standpoint. There's a number of different angles our students take, but hands-on is the big part of it.
Great. Speaking of marine biology, Emily, hi Emily, that's one of my students. Is marine biology your only biological field?
No, so not the only one. So we have, in terms of majors and minors, we have biology, biochemistry. We have somewhat related, we have public health, depending on where exactly you want to head with it. So I mentioned that we have that pre-med. In addition, astronomy, astrophysics. I'm just checking the list here to see if I'm missing any. Meteorology. Actually, one of my colleagues that worked in the office, he traveled through different parts of South Carolina last year. He's now in Augusta, Georgia, as one of the weathermen. So meteorology is definitely a good path for us there. There's a number of different sciences, depending on what you want to do with it, where you want to go. Combining majors and minors will very likely get you there.
Can you talk about your study abroad program?
Sure. So study abroad, really can go just about anywhere and do anything. There are kind of different tiers of study abroad. So there's a number of College of Charleston led programs that we do with just our students, with just our faculty. There's some trips that are just for spring break. There's some trips. We have a May semester. I mentioned that commencement is around Mother's Day, so early May each year. That means that really the month of May is open for most students, whereas other schools might stay in session until closer to June. So we do have a May semester that a lot of students take advantage of. So some students will do that study abroad in just the month of May. I said spring break, some spring semester, fall semester. Where you go and what you do will be tied very closely together. So you're not going to just go study abroad for the sake of studying abroad. You're going to go to Italy and study, Renaissance art and study Italian. You're going to do international business in London. You're going to study, I know we have a program that does football and culture, European football and culture. And they go to England and they tour through a number of soccer facilities and meet with teams and get very much up close and kind of an inside view of that world, not just from a business standpoint, but also from an anthropology and a sociology standpoint. So all over the world, all sorts of things. There are fairs on campus from early on throughout your time at College of Charleston. So you're getting exposed to a lot of programs. You're also going to find yourself with a lot of support, a lot of faculty and staff suggesting programs to you, helping you in terms of the application processes and the visas and the travel and the safety and security, housing, all those sorts of things. There's a lot of great support to help get you there and ensure that you have a great time while you're doing your study abroad.
Do you track interest?
We do. We do track interest. To a student's benefit, I would say not to, there's very few times where a student is going to find themselves inadmissible because of an interest. What I will say is, in the world of interest, it comes down to data, right? So I'm sure some advice you've gotten, but be consistent with your communication. If you have one email, but if your mom or dad has been signing you up for tours with a different email and you register, we might not know that they're the same person, right? If you're doing something, make sure you get credit for it, right? I'm going to follow up with Jenna and make sure that everyone here today is quote unquote getting the credit for this. But really what it boils down to is, if you're going out of your way, and this is a school that's high enough on your radar that you're willing to spend the time to visit, to meet with a counselor, to have one of these one-on-one sessions, to come to one of these information sessions, if you're going out of your way to show that, that's what we want to hear. It's not that you have to check off, you have to get a certain number of, it's not a point system, it's not oh, well, this student didn't do anything. Where interest can have an impact sometimes is in the timing of a decision. I can tell you from this past year, a student with low demonstrated interest or low tracked interest, those students didn't find themselves denied. If that student was otherwise admissible, they might not have found out right away. It may have impacted the timing of their decision, but it ultimately didn't impact um, the overall outcome. I like I said, be proactive on it. Reach out to counselors, introduce yourself, let them know you'd love to visit campus. You're probably not going to be able to this year, but if you've got any information, you'd love to hear it. That's going to go a long way with counselors. Give them a name, give them someone that they can root for, so that when they see your application, they go, oh yeah, I talked to Emily. She asked me a question about marine biology, and yep, I know who she is. She's a student that I want to fight for. And oh, by the way, already, looking at her application, I've got no questions. I've got no concerns. Speed through to the next stop, and next thing you know, acceptance letter. So that's the goal.
I wish I could record your memo about parent involvement and share that, because yes, I see that it could hurt when you sign up for something with the parent name as opposed to your child's name.
Mm-hmm.
So you should let your child do it because they are going to college. Because then Charleston has no idea who Diane Schulman, my mother, is.
Yes.
Jenna Schulman, me, is applying.
Yes. And I was, in one way that, if, especially this year, if you might not be able to visit, we have an optional essay question. It says, basically, why CFC? Why the College of Charleston? And I'm shocked at the number of students who don't write anything, right? It's such an easy opportunity for you to say. And even if all you say is, someone suggested I look at the College of Charleston, we toured campus, I loved it, it was beautiful, it looks like a type of place I want to go to school. That tells me you're alive, right? That tells me that that you're interested, that you've got a reason. I don't need you to quote, a number of students will say, oh, I love that you have this class and this professor. And if that's really who you are and why you're interested in the school, great, tell us that. But most likely it's a lot more personal. It doesn't have to be the most formal of essays. It can just be the simplest of reasons as why. This is why I'm applying. This is why, maybe I didn't think I wanted to go to school in the South, but the things I learned about the College of Charleston, I learned that it's not quite, as Southern as people may think. That's I want to give myself that option.
Yeah, so everyone who's listening today, try to take some notes if you haven't already. So then when you go ahead and write that essay, you can maybe have some like personal moments that you had with Patrick and quotes or things and dialogue, and your questions were answered, and you could put that all in the essay.
Yeah.
So just a little counselor advice. What percent is Greek life? And then do you want to talk a little bit about Greek life?
Sure. So Greek life for us is around 30%. So that means 3 out of 10 students are in Greek life. That also means 7 out of 10 students are not in Greek life. It is a school in the South, so I would say there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of tradition. Greek life, fraternities, sororities, they have houses kind of right on campus. They're technically on campus, and they're all dispersed kind of throughout campus. But it's a great opportunity for students. A number of students choose to take advantage of it. With it comes a cultural aspect, and there's the social side of things. There's the alumni side. I think that's one thing that I think particularly some students are drawn into because of the alumni network that comes with it. You get to take a 250-year-old alumni base that is the College of Charleston, and you get to kind of magnify it even further and say, well, I'm going to have my own alumni within this fraternity or sorority who are going to be able to help me out and be willing to go that much further for me. So that is something that students are drawn to. But like I said, with that 30% number, it's by no means a prerequisite. It's not something where students who choose not to go Greek are going to feel left out or not a part of things. I would say it's a nice supplement for students that want it. And particularly if it's something that a student is looking for, it's something that's alive and well.
Great. I don't know if we have any questions, but I'm happy to ask a few more. What would you say? How would you describe a typical Charleston student?
Sure. So our typical College of Charleston student is they're academically curious. They're not just content to kind of say, well, I've got this one mate. That's what I'm going to do. One area of focus. That's all I want to do. Our students come in curious. A lot of our students have a kind of increasingly more and more students have a strong passion for something, whether it's something from a social standpoint, something from a justice standpoint, whatever it is, there's students who are passionate about something. So you'll find a lot of our organizations on campus are volunteering, whether it's on, if it's on the environmental front, if it's on the accessibility, and whether there's all these different areas, whether it's diversity, there's just, you name it, students are passionate about things. This is a generation, this generation of students going through the process are more aware and more excited to make an impact, I think, than ever before. So that's our student who wants to get involved and doesn't want to just sit back. They like a little bit of tradition, right? There's something to be said about a school that's 250 years old. They like that there's a dynamic aspect to it. I'd say they're a little bit laid back, right? It's not going to be the most high-strung student who wants to go to school in a beautiful coastal tourist beach town. That student's going to want to kind of get outside and take advantage of the weather. But there's that student and everyone in between along the way.
Sounds like my people.
Yeah.
Could you review your holistic admissions?
Sure. So holistic admissions for us is, we're going to start with the application. And I would say for us, the kind of overriding concept, right? The top line is, what is this student's story? And that's our goal. And it obviously becomes a challenge because not every student helps us fill in the gaps on their story as best as possible. Who they are, what they want to do, what they've done, anything they've overcome along the way. That's what we're trying to learn. So, but for most students, and the key part of that is going to be the transcript. The transcript tells a lot about that student. It tells how they've done in math and science and English and history. It shows how they've done on quizzes, tests, on essays, on exams. For this group of seniors, it's shown how you've done with online learning. It's shown us a lot about your academic capabilities, your wherewithal, how you've done. Like I mentioned, we'd love to see that upward trend. If a student has a setback, we especially love to see a student who comes back even stronger, whether it's learning a lesson, whether it's taking advantage of something. So we love to see students that really persevere and do better and better each and every year. That tells us a bit about who you are. Essays fit into it. We want to know, I can tell you, they get read. They help us fill in the gaps. That essay, that YCFC, and I think kind of is a nice way for students to kind of tie things together. Test scores are a part of it. As I said, we're very realistic that test scores are not going to be available for most students, just because of timing and everything. So test scores are normally a part of it. It shows how you do on one type of test given on one Saturday morning. But we're going to go through and we're going to piece all these things together. We're going to look at recommendations. We're going to look, kind of, as we need, we're going to pull this information in and try to get a sense of who you are and what you want to do. So if you're given the opportunity, whether it's at the College of Charleston or any other school, if you're given the opportunity to tell us about who you are and what you want to do and what you want to accomplish, take advantage of it. Help us turn you from numbers that we see, because we will see a lot of numbers. We see transcripts and traditionally we see test scores. Sometimes we'll see rank. We see all these numbers and statistics, and what we love to see is a student who kind of helps us cut through a lot of that noise and talk about who they are, what they want to accomplish, why the College of Charleston is a part of that conversation, and what they think they're going to be able to accomplish with the College of Charleston. Those sorts of things help round you into this real person, because you're a real person with hopes and fears and dreams, and you're going to do well, right? You're going to accomplish great things and go on to wonderful things. You're going to do it regardless of whether it's at the College of Charleston or not. We just want to be a part of it for those students who this is the right school. So help us round you out, help us understand your story, and just use all those opportunities to your advantage.
Great. Is Charleston interviewing this year? That's a question for me.
No, I don't think we've interviewed for a number of years. I think we've just logistically, just to make it official part of the process. I mean, we've got Our freshman class is about 2,500 students. We had this past year, I think, I want to say around close to 15,000 applications. So to interview all those students becomes a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, that would be hard.
But I will say the one-on-ones we've always done, this past fall, I would do a lot of one-on-one sit downs. We would let students know from an area like, oh, I'm going to be in Chatham from 3 to 5:30. Sign up for a block. Let's talk. And especially now that a lot of things are going to be, I live here in New Jersey, so I'm hoping that even though the schools are likely not going to be open to visitors coming in, I'm hoping that there's going to be a world in which we can maybe work some things out to meet somewhere, hopefully, kind of outdoors and socially distanced and still have a chance to get a little bit of FaceTime, answer some questions. What I love to do when I meet one-on-one with students is help them kind of cut through the noise. And inevitably, I wind up having a conversation. I say, let's talk numbers. Let's talk where you're at, GPA, whether it's GPA test scores. Let's try to have a conversation, because a lot of students, I can help alleviate some of that stress. A lot of students, I can say, you're good, because you stress about it, and it's part of the process. This is naturally an anxious time. We always like to, as best we can, help students say, you're good, stay on this path, keep performing well, keep performing at the level you're at, and you're going to get the decision that you want to get. So I think a lot of students love to hear that. But the only way those really come through are in those one-on-one conversations. So take advantage of it and reach out as best you can.
Great. Is there a chance to double major?
Absolutely. Double major, double minor, double major, double minor. And this is, I would say, advice for most institutions. It's going to be the further you go away from a dual major, right? So if you do if you want to do marketing and management, if you want to do accounting and finance, those are both in the School of Business. Disciplines that are fairly close to each other are going to be easier to do as a double major. It is definitely doable, but to do a major in dance and a major in chemistry are going to be a little bit more challenged, because they're kind of separate paths and there's not as much overlap in those two programs as they go up. So definitely doable. Obviously, the earlier you know that you want a double major, the more flexibility you have with your schedule to make that double major work.
Great. So I know Charleston always comes up as a top school for learning support. Can you talk about how Charleston helps for students that have learning differences?
Yeah. So we have a number of different programs on campus. So one of them is SNAP, Students Needing Academic Parity. And that's kind of housed within I love their name, but I always jumble it up. But basically, it's academic persistence is the other name they call for it. So SNAP is the most formal of them. So obviously, anyone with an IEP, anyone with anything kind of documented that has currently receiving accommodations, SNAP really helps facilitate that. And this is, again, one of those benefits. I talked about College Charleston being really focused on undergraduate education, the fact that we've got 10,000 undergraduates and that our professors want to work with undergraduates. Having spoken with this team and a number of people in our SNAP department have worked at other schools, they are blown away by how receptive the faculty is to these accommodations. So it's not only faculty that follow the letter of the law, but follow the spirit of the law. So if a student, these faculty members, they want to help you be successful. So if it's needing a different format, if it's needing a different time of test, if it's needing more time, whatever that accommodation is that helps you perform your best and rise to the highest level, they're just blown away by how receptive the faculty is. It's not something where, and some schools have a reputation of not being the most receptive, that faculty will say, I know what the SNAP department said, but I'm not going to help you. You'll find the faculty at Charleston work really well with that students needing academic parity to really help them perform at the highest level they can.
How do you help undecided students find their right major / career fit? What do undecided students do while they try and find said major?
Sure. So you're going to meet with an advisor. Actually, we have got orientations going on today, and they've been going on all through the summer. you are not able to register for any classes as an incoming student until you've gone through orientation. So Charleston, like most schools, kind of has the pyramid, has general education, college-wide requirements on the bottom level. Your school, so whether it's the School of Business, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, School of Science, there's going to kind of be a chunk there that is common amongst those majors, and then there's your major. So obviously, as you work through that process, there's time to take those general education courses, and you will find that the advisors help steer you in that path. The best advice I can offer students in terms of going from undecided to what they want to do is, a school like Charleston has over 60 different majors. It's hard to pick the one that you want to do. It's probably a lot easier to figure out the ones you don't want to do. So sometimes that process of elimination is a little bit easier than the process of selection. So going through and figuring out that if you know that it's not a business discipline that you want to do, that helps you kind of narrow that list down. If and again, advisors help you figure out the process of visualizing what that ideal job looks like. Is it working with people? Is it working with businesses? Is it working with organizations? Is it technical? Is it more qualitative? Is it more quantitative? And they can help you kind of go through this. Career development's very strong on campus. So you're going to find a lot of resources in this liberal arts environment that are going to help you figure out what that next step is going to look like for you.
What is the percent of international and students of color?
International students of color or international students and students of color?
The second one.
Okay, just I was like, oh, I don't know that we have that. Those numbers off the top of my head, I don't know. I know it's an area of growth, right? I know Charleston wants to be more diverse. I think every school wants to be more diverse than they are. I know there are some great resources for it. We have our chief diversity officer actually sits on the president's cabinet. So I know there's a number of different initiatives going. As an institution, we're 250 years old. We're in Charleston, South Carolina. We're well aware of our history. And that's good history and bad history. And so I think that's one of the things of having the president that we have at the time we do. President Hsu is, I think, really leading the college in a really, really important direction to be able to have some hard and kind of honest conversations about our history and our diversity and what that means and where we're headed. So I know it's obviously a big topic across all of campus, but I know it's something that our President Hsu and his leadership really want to help address and help move forward in a positive way.
And last question, which is kind of similar, is the campus more conservative or liberal?
I would say it probably, for South Carolina, it definitely skews liberal, right? For a student from the Northeast, it might feel a little bit conservative, and that might be just because in the South, religion's a little bit bigger, right? Just like sororities and fraternities are a little bit bigger, religion's just a little bit more of a part of life in the South and a more public and more open thing. And so that there's a lot of churches, like I mentioned, all throughout Charleston. There's also, and I think one thing that people are always really surprised to find out is the strong Jewish student population at the College of Charleston. So I mentioned the oldest synagogue in the United States is actually just a few blocks off of campus. Charleston has a long history. We have a Center for Jewish Studies right on campus. We have a kosher dining option as part of our on-campus dining with a dining hall, kind of specially suited there. So there's a strong presence, and so it's not just students of a Christian faith, but there's students of all different backgrounds. And that's, I think, something that people are always really surprised to find, that there is such a history, that there is such a background there, and they kind of get on campus and they go, okay, it's a place where people are fairly, you're going to find students pretty open, pretty easygoing. Because we are all students from all over the country, it definitely has that diverse vibe to it, that students are there because they like the atmosphere, they like the relaxed South Carolina environment. But ultimately, they're there to learn and explore. And so I think that for a lot of students comes off as fairly liberal and fairly easygoing there. So I think that's kind of that's how I would best describe it. It's always a tricky question because you never know if someone really, some students, right? And some students really want a conservative campus, and you can definitely find those. I think most students want fairly middle of the road to on the liberal side. I think that might just be me surmising there, but I think
Yeah.
um,
Just like objectively, I felt like it was pretty moderate. I didn't feel like it was like so like politically active. I don't mean that in a bad way, like people don't care. I just feel like it wasn't like at certain colleges in Washington, D.C. where there was like protesting. Like I felt like people, like you said, were just like kind of kicked back, like, oh, I just want to like go to the beach
yeah.
and hang and like get my work done. And, so, and I felt like I was actually surprised at how many, like I definitely saw the like pop collar, that's what we used to call it in like the 2000s. But
I am wearing a Vineyard Vines shirt, so you
yeah,
can
so
say
I
it.
saw like the Vineyard Vines, but like it was actually really surprising. Like I saw a lot of like purple hair and like a lot of different skin colors, different hair colors, like different
Yep.
all colors. So like I'm just like not even like lying about that at all. So like I felt like it was really like a hodgepodge, and like there's so many like cool restaurants, like Indian food, Asian food, American food. So like I really felt like it was kind of way more moderate and more just like we're not really like that insanely involved in politics, but
Yeah,
we'll
and that's what I'd say is
edge.
our students. I think our students are fairly aware.
Yeah,
Um, it's there's kind of that relaxed kind of it's part of that overall atmosphere. I think a
right. But
little
it's
bit of
also
it
like,
too is
yeah, it's not the capital, I was gonna say. So it's
right.
not like, another school in South Carolina that is
Yes,
the capital.
and part of it too is part of the South is the Southern hospitality and being friendly and not being trying to too upfront with things. And then the other side of it that I think does play in a little bit is how strong tourism and hospitality is in Charleston. The fact that even for locals, so many people that you come across are from out of town and visiting, and this is they're going to they might be building their entire perception of Charleston on your interaction with them. And so people are going to be generally friendly. That kind of Southern hospitality I say is alive and well. It is a real and true thing. And people want to be friendly. They want to be helpful. They don't want to necessarily make you feel uncomfortable and put you in this place. That's a little bit of the Southern culture, is to make you feel comfortable. And maybe I'm not going to push you on some things. And whereas, being here in New Jersey, you might be a little bit more, I'm
We
used
say
to being
what's on our
bit,
mind.
yes, you say what's on your mind early and often. And, we'll teach the rest of the world how to drive.
And how to eat good bagels.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you. This is helpful. Any final thoughts as we conclude?
I mean, my final thought is one of the things I opened with. This is a stressful process. I really do. For students going through it, parents going through it, this is going to be a tough year. It's stressful. I know there's a lot of indecision about what schools, what high school is going to look like, let alone thinking ahead to what the college process is going to look like. I do know from talking to my peers, from talking to other institutions, we want to help. We don't have all the answers right now. We just don't, but we want to do what we can. So in an era where everything's getting kind of virtual and distant, do your best to reach out and just, like I said, simply reaching out to people and emailing them a message and saying, hey, I don't even have a question right now, but you're on my list and you're the school that I think, you're on the top of my list. I'd like to get a little bit more information. That simple introduction gives you that ability to build a relationship and help you go through this process, because it is stressful. But the last thing I'll say is you will get through it. You've got some great resources. Obviously, I know a number of people are working with Jenna on things. To have a college counselor who can really help you go through this. You all have parents, obviously, who are part of this, and they want the best. I will say that parental support and guidance doesn't always feel like parental support and guidance. So students, kind of try your best to cut your parents a little bit of slack. I've got a 2-year-old running around downstairs, so I'm nowhere near going through the college process on this side of things. But there's no lesson book with parenting. They're trying to figure it out just the same. So have some conversations, talk about the things you want, talk about the things you don't want. Keep an open mind, and I wish you guys the best of luck, and let us know how we can help.
Thank you, Patrick, and hope everyone gets a chance to get to Charleston.
I'll be headed down there at some point, and if not a few times this fall, definitely in the spring. Fingers crossed in the spring when things are
for sure. Okay.
much more opened up.
Stay safe. Have a good night,
Right.
everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.